Welcome students! Professor Kevin Taylor here to provide you a walkthrough of the Trello software that will be utilised as our primary managerial tool for this course. Being free and online, I'd like everyone to be registered on Trello.com during day one of the class to ensure that they can be added to the Trello managerial boards. When you're registered on the Trello website, I will be able to add you to the 445.1 CGI group. This group contains a selection of boards that I created. The Getting Started board provides you and your team all of the initial tasks to guide you through the project's decision making and managerial setup. The team boards are allocated to student teams, and you will be updating these at each stage of your asset's development through to the end of the production. Finally, the milestone board will be updated by myself as we progress through the assignment-based production pipeline. To begin, teams should all open the Getting Started board. Each board contains a list, titled to the team's number. Each list has a selection of cards, and each card a selection of labels that can be added to it to show the status of that stage of production. So each team has a section, and as your team works through the tasks that rely heavily on discussion and decision making, you will update each card with the required label. The majority of day one should be spent on this. Discussions should take place in the Discord team rooms and on Zoom conferencing. I will be dropping in and out of the different rooms to ensure that everyone is engaging here and that the process is progressing effectively. Just be sure not to edit any other team's board, as that is a team red flag. So as mentioned, cards represent tasks, and tasks are managed with labels. This is done by a team member clicking on the desired card to bring up this screen. Navigating to the right of this screen, you would click on Labels to open up this additional menu. Here I've created a selection of labels that you should work to apply in order to keep the team and myself updated on your task progress. On this screen, simply left-clicking on one of the labels will apply a tick, which means that it's active. To deactivate a label, you simply click it again to remove the tick. On screen here, we have the label Not Started set to a task. When the team moves out of this phase, they would click on the Not Started label to deactivate it, and click on the In Progress label to show that you're currently working on this task. When this phase is completed, the team would remove In Progress and add the Completed label before moving on to the next card. If I decide that I'm unhappy with your progression to the next stage, then I will change your card to Incorporating Feedback, with teams engaging in further discussion before gaining approval to set this back to Completed. By the end of day one, students should have decided on a theme for their collective world. This should not be decided upon too quickly, as it's the basis of all your work over the next 16 weeks. So ensure you've all engaged in this discussion. Students will also consider and decide upon a narrative for their individual space. This can be changed later, but I want you all to make initial decisions on day one to make sure you're off to a strong start. During initial brainstorming, teams are encouraged to dig deep and air their ideas freely, all engaging in discussion regarding the positives and negatives of each theme. For example, if your team decides upon a creepy, haunted, horror style theme, you could have a hall that opens up into the individual rooms that would contain the space of each student's narrative. Each student could have a horror character in mind and would construct a space to convey the personality of each character, say Dracula, Dr. Frankenstein, or Jason Voorhees, etc. etc. Students would spend their time researching this character as well as the different aspects of the space and the personality traits and mood they seek to convey. By day one's end, students will proceed to their Team tab in Blackboard Weekly Updates. You will create one wiki post in your Team section and will add answers to the questions on screen to your post. Please note there is a specific format to posting, and each team will have an example of this. For post 1, you will add the title, Week 1, after which a description, for example project planning and research. Below this you will answer the questions on screen. A single post will cover the entire 7 days leading up to your next class. If later this week you have engaged in a lot of research and have stronger ideas about your space, then you will edit this post with a few of the more relevant pictures and a brief write-up. You can engage in this process as many times as you like up until the next class, at which time any updates will be part of the following week. The latest post should always be added to the top, with previous weeks seen below. This ensures that everyone will see the latest work when we come to critiques. As your research continues, you will develop a rough list of assets that are required to construct your space, and will write it all up in your team's white box board. Here, you replace student 1 to 5 with the names of each team member. Team members will individually click to add a card to their section. Each card will contain the title of an asset to be produced, from large items such as the floor or the wall, to small items such as notebooks, bottles of whiskey, clown noses, etc. Make sure you always know, are you looking to depict a character's personality, or perhaps events that have befallen a character? This will require you to have a strong understanding of the narrative you wish to convey, and what items will tell this tale. Through critiques and discussions, you may find new items to be added and maybe a few items to be removed. But when it comes to submitting your white box assignment, ensure that every item within the file was included here also. In the white box stage of production, when you've gathered 10 images for each individual asset, you can apply the researched label to that asset. As you move into assignment 3 primary production, you add permanent state labels to each of your assets. These labels specify if an item is to be produced in the primary stage or in the secondary, as outlined in assignment 3's brief. During the primary and secondary stages of production, the label for in progress is applied when you are currently working on an item. This is changed to completed when an item is modelled, UV'd, and textured. Incorporating feedback is used to take an item from completed when additional work is outlined during critiques, changed back to completed once the discussed amendments have been applied. With the completion of the white box assignment, a Teams folder will change from Team 1 white box to Team 1 primary production. At this time, team members will be instructed to set all assets back to not started. This is in preparation for the next assignment and the next stage of development, but should only be done when instructions are provided by the professor. I'm going to be checking boards throughout the week and taking screenshots to stay atop of your progress, to assess how this correlates to the overall quantity and quality of work done each week. If you don't update your Trello boards throughout the week, ensure that they are updated prior to the start of each new class. This is also the case with your Blackboard team post. When a new class starts, students will take to Blackboard to provide comments on each student's work over the past week. This is done by adding a comment that contains a title for the week you're commenting on, as seen on screen. The first week's comments will be labelled Week 1, followed by your critique. I'd like everyone's work to receive at least 3 comments a week, so let's make sure that individual students are providing 3 to 5 comments on their peers' work each week. Blackboard wikis show how many posts a student has made and how many words are posted, so it's a nice easy system for me to monitor who's engaging. Just make sure your comments are relevant and not trash. Better to be short, concise and clear than rambling and irrelevant. So that's everything to get us started. If you have any questions about this process, please post them to the Discord virtual classroom. I'd love to answer them and make sure everyone understands how this next 16 weeks is going to work. So good luck and happy modelling!